The idea that we can tell our own stories, that we have our own stories to tell that don't necessarily always get told by us, and to have a venue and a place where we can call home for our filmmakers and their work. And that's what having Creatively Speaking is about. We're really thrilled to have as our launch of our monthly series here at MIST a couple of New York premieres. One is called Surfing Soweto by Sarah Bletcher. We're thrilled to have her back with her documentary that is extremely engaging and informative and important as well. We also have a premiere by Tony Regustus called Obama in Ghana, and it represents the documentation of the first African-American president to visit the first sub-Saharan African country since ever.
Obama in Ghana, the untold story, captures the pageantry, the politics, and public celebrations of President Obama's historic state visit to Ghana. Obama in Ghana, the untold story.
I always had this social justice part of myself, and I discovered when I was in my 20s out of college that documentary was a great way to meld the social justice side of myself and the telling story side of myself. Promised Land is my first film, and it looks at how two African Native communities in South Africa are trying to get land back that was stolen from them during apartheid. And it follows their process, a multi-year process. The story also follows the white landowners who don't want to give up the land.
Commercial white farmers, all that they want is to make profit, while we don't have anywhere to live. We want our land back, and we want it now.
It's not about whites, it's not about blacks. It's about the very fact that we are landowners, that we own land, we have rights in terms of the Constitution.
I'm just scared that we're going to go the same route as the rest of Africa. They kick out the whites, then they take over, and the country never comes right.
Absolutely the best part of being a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, is the relationships that you develop, with the people that you shoot, the people who are in your story. It's an unbelievable privilege to be able to engage in their lives and hear their stories, earn their trust, and be able to transmit their stories in a way that one hopes will, make a small difference in this world, make the world a better place. Melvin and Jean, An American Story traces the lives of an African-American couple, Melvin and Jean McNair, who in their early 20s, for various reasons, hijack a plane from Detroit to Algeria to join the Black Panthers, the international section of the Black Panthers in Algeria.
France prosecuted the McNairs, and they spent a few years in jail each. The question is, does that then put a close to the prosecution of them in the United States courts? And the answer to that is no, it does not.
I would have preferred not to hijack that plane, and hurt a lot of lives. My son would be alive today if I had been able to come into the country.
He never felt as though he was totally French or if he was totally American. He was displaced.
I always knew this was a possibility, that he could be killed. That's life in Black America.
Right now, most of the stories, especially my first feature film, which I'm getting ready to launch a campaign for, is deals with love and relationships. I just love the way people interact. I love writing from a guy's point of view and intertwining that with what people think women, some people think that women think a certain way. And so in my stories, you know, I allow the ladies' room conversation to come out. And so when those two mix, it makes for a very edgy, sexy film. And so it just happens to be about love and relationships. Yellow is a short film, which is about two people on a first date, moving cautiously and not saying what they're thinking. So you hear their inner thoughts, which contradict what they're saying out loud.
You know how to play Uno?
One thing actually that inspired me to become a filmmaker is my cultural perspective. Because I grew up in a place that was so sort of homogenous at the time that I was growing up there, I really didn't have a Caribbean community around me. But going to Trinidad every other year or however often we could to be with my family and to spend time there, that became a huge part of my identity. And so the idea of the diaspora and the idea of complex identities that people have is really interesting to me and has always sort of motivated my work and been behind the stories that I want to tell. Jeffrey is a young man who has a secret passion for old-time calypso music. He has to hide it from his family because they don't approve of that path for him. But he sneaks out and he goes to these parties and he meets this girl who is everything that he wishes he could be. She is doing what she wants to do, and he's inspired by her and challenges his father for himself and for the relationship with her.
The lifestyle of a performer may suit some people, but not our family.
Where you learn to dance like that? Jeffrey not too good at the mat, but he liked the music, just like his grandfather.
What kind of girl meets a boy at a party anyway?
Please, Carla, let me make it up to you.
No.
You must know where she is.
No! Even if I didn't know, I'm not telling you. She's my family and I'm not taking that.
My son is not a failure.
Coming to filmmaking was I love to tell stories. I have been captivated by telling stories and talking to people and even interviewing people since I was little. I would put on little shows for my family at Thanksgiving, and I remember I couldn't wait until Thanksgiving because I knew it was a long weekend. And I knew I would have a captive audience, for 4 days. So my poor family and brothers would have to endure my shows. I would write them, I'd make some people be in them, but for some reason, I just really love storytelling, and maybe that's part of the folklore somehow of the African American tradition, but not everyone in my family was that interested, but I was. I think it may skip a generation, but that's really what drew me to filmmaking, storytelling. Jesse Owens is a 1-hour documentary on the legend and legacy of the African American sprinter, Jesse Owens. The film recounts what happened to him at the 1936 Berlin Olympics and the bittersweet story that happened to him afterwards.
After winning all those gold medals, he expected the whole nation to love him. And here, the greatest athlete in America is being treated shabbily.
Jesse Owens.
My hopes for MIST, My Image Studios, is to really become the go-to place for independent filmmakers of color, particularly here in New York City. We want to be the place where everybody wants to show. We want to have the kinds of audiences, the diverse audiences, and the access to those audiences where people feel comfortable coming and making it their home away from home.